Welcome back to the Leverage Podcast, where our goal is simple: to learn from the best and discover how we can all live a better life, build a more fruitful business, and be more productive. Join us each week as we interview fellow entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and leading experts to discuss everything from marketing secrets to new technology and life as an entrepreneur.
Welcome back to the Leverage Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Sonnenberg, and today I have an incredible guest. You probably have heard of this person because most people that follow the podcast are familiar with Strategic Coach and EOS. And today, my guest is Gino Wickman, author of Traction, creator of EOS, author of Rocket Fuel, who we just had Mark Winters on the podcast a few days ago. You're also the author of What the Heck is EOS? Get a Grip on Your Business. Man, you have so many books. Entrepreneurial Leap is the newest one. And I know that that's what we're going to be speaking mostly about, which is your latest book, which I read and it was awesome, all about helping the younger generation decide, is this the right fit for them? Gino is a new friend of mine, which I'm really excited about. We had a great dinner back in October, and I've been a fan of yours for a while. And we use EOS at Leverage, and it's been really, really awesome and helpful. And welcome to the show.
Oh, glad to be here. Well, it's all really nice to hear. And I really did enjoy our time together in Arizona. Not only the dinner, but just having a couple drinks together. You're a good dude. So it's nice to spend a little more time with you here.
No, thanks. Likewise. So why don't we start? I mean, I don't want to repeat. I don't like interviewing people when they have to say always the same thing. How did you come up with it? Blah, blah, blah. So I like to tend to go in different directions. But what's on your mind lately?
Yeah, I love that.
With Corona. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, well, lots going on in my mind lately. You know, I love how you're starting that because I also think your audience is a little bit different, Nick. So, you know, I'd love to talk about, you know, how this new content kind of benefits them as well. So I do think this is going to be a little bit different type of interview than what I've been doing. But what's on my mind lately, you know, is a few things. You know, obviously we're, experiencing a crisis. You know, the first thing is no surprise. So my business mentor taught me 3 decades ago, the 10-year business cycle. And it has held true now for 30 years, which is in business, 10-year business cycle, you're going to have 2 great years, 6 good years, and 2 terrible years that could potentially put you out of business. And again, that has held true now for 3 10-year periods. But if we go back 100 years, it's held true. And you never know what the 2 years are going to be and why it's going to be terrible. You know, whether that's a 9/11, a pandemic, you know, a great recession, a war. I mean, who knows? But it has held true. And so, you know, I've kind of been preparing everyone in my life, my clients, our EOS implementers, that this is going to happen. Again, not specifically this. And knowing it's going to happen, you know, I beg, plead, urge everyone to have 6 months cash flow, have dry powder, be able to endure 6 months. You know, I'm happy to say that the people that have listened, you know, they're pretty peaceful right now. And the ones that haven't, it's unfortunately, they're panicking right now. And so, you know, the first thing that goes through my mind is that, you know, sense of peace, not being surprised. And if nothing else, you know, for somebody to hear that right now that's getting their ass kicked and didn't prepare well and is surprised by this, you know, it's a hard lesson to hear. But my God, the point in what I'm saying is it is going to happen again in the next 10 years. So, you know, don't be surprised, be ready, be prepared. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is, you know, what's on my mind is I'm not smart enough to predict when we come out of this, what this looks like. So for me, I always look at it as these are the cards we've been dealt, and you lean into this thing. And what I learned very quickly in that first week after I did my crisis planning, because I'm going to take some lumps as a result of this. And, you know, I sat down and I said, okay, let's pretend the tap is going to get turned off for the rest of the year. You know, will I endure that? And so I looked at that plan, and doing that gave me peace of mind that I'll survive. Like I said, but I'll take some lumps. And then what I did is just totally leaned in, and I'm obsessed and focused on just helping people, talking to as many people as I can. And so the message to anyone out there is you gotta talk to people, you know, and let's pretend we're talking to 100% entrepreneurs. You got to talk to your clients. You got to talk to your customers. You got to get as close to them as possible, understand what they're going through, prescribe solutions, And what happens is your energy will shift. You'll become more positive. You'll have more ideas. You'll help people more, as opposed to the opposite, which is sitting at home, watching the news, sucking your thumb, and slowly deteriorating. So, and that's what a lot of people are doing, and it's terrifying. The last little point is it's really fascinating. This one's unique. So, I survived 08 and 09, took a bunch of clients through that. And what's different about this one is the business owners and the entrepreneurs I talk to now, it's 50-50. Half of them are on the good side of this thing, and they're growing and kicking ass, and there's lots of opportunities, and they're just in the right business. And then half are getting their ass kicked. And so for those, you've got to do one of two things for sure. Everything I've already said, but also you've got to get back to the basics. For some companies, it's not about reinventing yourself right now. It's just about getting back to the basics. You have been spoiled for 11 straight years. A lot of entrepreneurs that started their business in 08 and 09, you've just been enjoying one hell of a ride. And now you got to get back to the basics. And then some need to totally reinvent themselves. And true entrepreneurs will do that if you lean in and get close to your customer. So long dissertation, but that's what's on my mind.
We were just chatting right before we started the recording here about all the impacts that this is going to be. But I'm curious, how big is your team? Is it right now for everything you're doing with Entrepreneurial Leap? What does your team look like?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a semi-long answer, but I promise you my other answers will be shorter. So I sold EOS Worldwide 2 years ago. Right. And obviously I'm sitting here going, well, kind of glad I did that from a standpoint of I would be in that fire helping EOS Worldwide adapt to this. I still own 12.5%. I still own all the books. I'm still the EOS guy. I still have clients. And so they have done a masterful job. I mean, they are reinventing that company and helping so many people right now. So pretty happy. So that team was enormous, basically 400 people in that organization.
No, it's a monster what you've got there. I mean,
so I sold that, and I do take, I have great peace that I'm not in the thick of that. So what I have now is a very, very different model. And so this new business, Entrepreneurial Leap and book, is all about helping entrepreneurs in the making. And you'll love this because this is your business. And that is, I have 4 virtual assistants. And what I tell people with this new model, I'm creating something that is very, very unique, as I've always done for 30 years. This model, I have a 10-year mission to impact 1 million entrepreneurs in the making. And what I say is I'm not building another empire. And so I'll share how I'm going to do this because, again, your audience is perfect for what I'm going to talk about in terms of this model. But I say that today I have 4 virtual assistants. 10 years from now, when I achieve that goal, I will have 4 virtual assistants. So I'm doing this in a way that I do not have to build another empire and be surrounded by hundreds of people.
I think that the future of work, aside from being remote, which we're all forced into, is having agile workforces and not having huge payrolls where you need to commit $100,000 for a full-time resource. That's why we built Leverage. It's all, for me, it's all this umbrella of future of work. I think that the future of work will be working with these agile on-demand teams that you could tap into various skill sets and get super high quality work without making huge commitments and just pay for what and when you need things.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we built EOS Worldwide for 20 years, the last 2 decades, as a virtual company. There's never been a corporate office. There's never been a brick and mortar office that people, resided in. We were spread out all over the world, 100% virtual. I can't imagine doing it any other way.
Well, there's so many benefits to remote. And like what we were talking about before the recording of this was, it was inevitable that the world, I feel, was moving remote. That's my thesis. And I guess you were already doing that for a long time. This is just accelerating kind of the direction that the world was going in.
And who knows, it's interesting. I'm not smart enough to predict, nor do I even try to predict, because every time I try to predict, most of the time I'm wrong, as are most other people. But for me, it's bittersweet because yes, I've been living in this virtual world as well, but all the work that I do is in front of people live. I work with teams, in my session room. All of our implementers, we come together every quarter. And I love to meet people in a coffee shop, and sit there drinking a cup of coffee, in my case, tea, and have a conversation. So this will be challenging and hard for me. And so I think, we'll get back to some level of normalcy, and a lot of that will still go on, but there's no question there are people loving this virtual world. We're doing most all of our sessions virtual now, and so 30 days ago, every session was in a session room. Now, all of a sudden they're all on Zoom.
What's the feedback? And what's the feedback so far?
We've dialed them in. The ratings on the sessions are just as high. And there's, 1 out of 10 people that say, I actually prefer it this way. So it's really, really fascinating.
I do a live event with Lee Brower from Strategic Coach called Bullseye, and we're going to move the next event in June to virtual. And I really believe that there's pros and cons, right? I think that you need to be able to meet your clients at some frequency face to face, because you can never replicate that on Zoom. But people don't have to travel and lose a day. You don't have to pay for hotel and flights. You could be in your pajama bottoms and be super comfortable. Like you can, if you have a team that's distributed and you want to work with them, that's not just one flight and hotel. Could be 5 or 10 flight and hotel. So plus you can record the session when you work with people, and they could go and rewatch it, transcribe it, take the action items out of it. So pros and cons, but
I do, and hearing all that, I just think it'll be one of many ways to do it going forward. And everyone's going to have their preference. At the same time, who the hell knows?
So you mentioned that you had a business mentor that told you about the 10-year cycle. Who was your business mentor, and who do you consider your mentor now?
Sam Cupp was my business mentor in my 20s. Sadly, he passed about 10 or 15 years ago. He made a huge impact on my life. I had two mentors in my 20s, my dad and Sam Cupp. Sam Cupp was my business mentor. My dad was kind of my people leadership mentor. He taught me how to communicate, be it 1 or 1,000 to 1 or 1,000. I consider right now probably my greatest mentor is probably Dan Sullivan. I mean, he's probably shaping my thinking. He has for 23 years. But that last 5 years, he's probably shaped my thinking more than any other resource that I tap into.
He's awesome. So we've been in talks. Dan's he's a collaborator now, so we're working out a collaboration. I'm speaking at Free Zone next February. So
nice, nice. You bet.
So you said before that you were when this happened the first week, you did a risk assessment. You were thinking about the lumps and how this is going to impact your business. Tell me about your process. Like what did you do in that risk assessment? Did you also, aside from figuring out cash flow wise, do I have enough, what's the cash flow looking like? What were the other things that you looked at? What else were you thinking about? Because I think, and I'll share my perspective maybe first here, but when this first happened in the first week, we did a risk assessment as a team. So we canceled meetings and we did a half day, basically risk assessment. And I already had a policy where we did role rotations every quarter. So every one of the rocks every quarter is to pick a role to rotate for a week to make sure that you have a backup for that role. So, after a year, you've done 4 rotations. And I got that, I talk about this a lot, but I got that idea from the days where I was a high frequency trader, and you would have to make sure you weren't hiding trades. So you would have someone else, you'd leave for a 2-week vacation. And aside from the de-risking part, there was always an improvement to how my book traded because fresh eyes spark innovation. So we do that exercise not just to de-risk the company, but also to get new ideas. So you're never in the situation, we do it like this because that's the way we've always been doing it. That drives me insane. But there were still some things that we hadn't mitigated risk. So when we did that meeting, we identified what are the things we don't normally think about that could really hurt us. So one was, for example, we use Salesforce pretty aggressively, and we use the API to do a lot of technical things. And we identified that the token expires every 3 months. Only one person knows how to rotate that token on the back end, my developer. If the token expired and he got sick, that was a vulnerability that I identified in that meeting. So I preemptively rotated the token a few weeks ago. So we just kind of went through and did that exercise. But I'm curious. And also right now, I feel like you should be as proactive as possible rather than reactive. And I think that most people haven't hit the hardest part of this journey with Corona because they haven't yet experienced a key team member calling and saying, I'm out for 2 weeks. I can't do anything. I'm just curious, what was your risk assessment process like?
It is definitely not that thorough, and getting to know you getting to know you over those couple of drinks a few months ago. You are a very thoughtful guy, crazy smart, and I live my life by the 20-80 rule. And so all I ever worry about and focus on are the 20% that gets me 80% of the results. So my crisis plan was solely financial. And so what I looked at is about 4 hours. I looked at everything economically. I took everything to a worst case scenario, and I made sure that I could endure and survive this year economically, and also wanted to see where I was going to take all of the hits, and then go back and assure my team, hey, you're all still gainfully employed. Good news, at least for now. And so no, it's purely economic. I didn't get into is everybody cross-trained. I will adapt and adjust if I lose one of my people, God forbid. So no, it's not that elaborate in detail.
Maybe I should have done the cash flow analysis as well. Maybe I'm not that smart. No,
that might be the most important thing to look at.
I'm just joking. Luckily, knock on wood, we have been fine so far.
Good. Good to hear.
So tell me a little bit about this new passion that with Entrepreneurial Leap. You have the book coming out. What was the motivation for that? Why was that something that you want to invest 10 years of your life, get it into 1 million hands? Why is that so important for you?
Yeah, so there's a great quote by Danielle Kennedy that she says, "We teach what we needed the most." And so why this is important to me is I'm basically teaching what I needed the most as an 18-year-old entrepreneur in the making who was lost, confused, insecure. I was a mislabeled derelict. And so I didn't know what I was. I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur until age 29. And so I created this to help that 18-year-old, to help anyone who is an entrepreneur in the making really understand what they are, why they're on this earth, and show them a path to become what they're supposed to be. And I realize it's not about an age. And so I thought it was going to skew young, but I'm realizing it's any age, 15 to 75 and everything in between, because a lot of times you've been trapped in this corporate path and you've been miserable and uncomfortable and itchy there your whole life. And at 55, you're realizing, holy crap, I'm an entrepreneur in the making. This is going to help you really discover that and then show you a very clear path. And then last little point with this, to tie everything we've talked about to this moment, to the topic we're about to go into, it's really fascinating because I think I'm in the right place at the right time with this content, because it's these times that spawn the new great entrepreneurs of the future. Just like 08 and 09 did, it's about to happen again. And so I really hope to help some people come out of the woodwork and really become who they're supposed to become.
And so how do people learn more about Entrepreneurial Leap? Is it you have a book that people could buy on Amazon?
Correct.
Some others. Where can people find out?
Things. So the epicenter of everything is at e-leap.com. And so what you find there is certainly access to buy the book, but the book is available through all retailers. But I have 9 free tools, and we're not going to get into all 9, but the point is, it is, other than buying a book, everything is free. Okay. And so I'm offering this to the world for free, but for buying a book. And 2 examples of the free tools. One is an assessment that you can take to determine whether or not you have the 6 essential traits of an entrepreneur.
So I took that assessment. It was great.
How for you?
I think it was like 100% entrepreneur or something ridiculous.
So that's good. And then there's also a free chapter of the book. So the first 30 pages. So at least, your audience can read it and see if it's right for them. But again, with that, you'll find all the tools. That's the epicenter of everything. I put out a piece of video content every single week. So just lots of information. And as we go into this, I want to create a little context for your audience, because as I understand it, most of your audience are entrepreneurs and business owners. So What I would suggest is,
a lot of people from Dan Sullivan and Joe Polish, most of the listeners are
exactly.
Genius Network and Strategic Coach.
Right. And so what I would suggest is, for someone like that, number one, you have entrepreneurs in the making in your life. You have sons and daughters that you think might be entrepreneurs, or you want to be entrepreneurs. You might mentor entrepreneurs. And so very quickly, contextually, for you, this book is a great resource if you mentor. So I created something called a mentor track, which is one of the free tools. And the mentor track does 80% of the heavy lifting for you as a mentor. Again, number two, you may have someone in your life that you want to help determine if they're an entrepreneur in the making. This is a great gift to give them or direct them to the website. And the other thing is collaborators. So the way I'm building this model out, and the reason that I don't need to hire an army and build an army and have another empire, is I'm joining forces with collaborators. And a collaborator is any organization that helps and teaches and guides entrepreneurs in the making, be that a high school, a college, a nonprofit, a for-profit. And some of your audience do focus and help entrepreneurs in the making. And what I do is I give that collaborator all of my content for free. All I ask is to give credit where credit is due, but that's really the model. And so I'm building a team of collaborators that use this content. And the last little thing I would add is, I didn't expect this, but it's pretty cool. And so whenever an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneurs, these are my clients, whenever they read this book, Entrepreneurial E, it lights them up, because truth be told, this is your life story. And what it does is it kind of reinvigorates, and you kind of get an entrepreneurial reset, if you will. And so it's a really powerful experience, really fast read. It's designed for a high, quick start visionary entrepreneur. And so anyway, so those are the benefits that, you know, might be for your audience. But with that, let's go wherever you want to take this content.
Oh. And now I remember when we were having dinner, I don't know if it's in the book, we were talking about quick starts, and I was like, well, my quick start's a 5. It's not the typical visionary quick start. Have you found pattern where the integrator is the high follow through and the quick start is the visionary, right?
Yeah, well, actually so visionary integrator, what's interesting to touch on that, there is no perfect Kolbe for an integrator. It's all about matching the visionaries. You're the perfect puzzle piece to their 2-piece puzzle. So I actually thought in my work and in my research around that is that I was going to find the perfect Kolbe, because I took my 10 best integrators and Kolbe them, and they were like snowflakes. So unfortunately, I can't give you the perfect Kolbe for an integrator, but for a visionary entrepreneur, this conversation we're about to have, it is almost always, I'm talking like high 90 percentile, 8, 9, 10 quick start. And my take on you, and this is what I shared with you, I think after our second or third drink, is that, and by the way, in talking to the people at Kolbe, you're one of those highly intelligent people that you're a really smart dude. And so I'm being genuine. And again, this is right out of the people at Kolbe's mouth, that highly intelligent people are the ones that kind of trick the system, because you're so smart. You just kind of know how to do this intellectually, which is very rare, very unique. And so again, high percentile, almost always 8, 9, 10 quick starts are the people that possess these 6 essential traits in our entrepreneurs.
Well, who knows if I'm even doing it? I mean, time will tell how successful leverage gets, right? I mean, anyone can start a company. It's about where you take it.
Exactly right. And, and again, we can talk about that entrepreneurial range, and you may stay on the left side of that range, and that's okay. Maybe you're not going to build a 1,000-person organization, and that's okay.
Well, I'm not trying to build 1,000 like you. I want it to be remote and as lean as possible. Like for me, I'm maximizing revenue per team member rather than just revenue. I'm looking at things like that, because when we grew to 150 people the first year, and without a solid foundation with processes and things like that, it was a nightmare to make changes and fix when you're big. So I'm trying to stay as small as possible, as long as possible in terms of team count. So right now, let's say someone's listening to the podcast, or for those of you that are not members of the free Facebook group we have called Making Remote Work Actually Work, we're live right now. So please join that Facebook group if you want to participate in lives, which, by the way, we have a few questions that I'll read to you before getting into more. Ike on the team is asking what your Kolbe score is.
My Kolbe is 3682.
Huh. All right. And I'm a 7653. Does that mean we can be friends, or is that puzzle piece?
You can be friends with any Kolbe.
So with that puzzle piece, where would we fit together? You would be the visionary and I'd be the integrator.
Give me those numbers again.
765. I should ask Shannon Waller this. She loves this stuff.
I'm going to answer.
7653.
Yeah. You would frustrate the shit out of me. That would be our relationship, but that's okay.
Nice. But that's with everyone.
Colby believes you want those differences because it's that tension that creates great stuff. But you're high fact finder, my low fact finder. You're a little lower quick start, I'm higher. We would drive each other a little crazy, but that's good. That's what makes the world go round.
What I've found in my research is that no matter what the other person's Colby is, I drive them crazy. Wonder that means.
That's that intellectual thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's my unique ability, speaking in Dan Sullivan language. All right. Do you recommend any online tools for EOS meetings on Zoom for implementers to use for quarterly sessions if moving all virtual?
I'm not going to answer a lot of EOS questions just to manage that, because I urge you strongly to have Mike Payton on a podcast if you want to answer a lot of EOS questions. But ask that again. Let me see if I can give a quick answer. I guess.
Do you recommend any online tools to run like a level 10 meeting? I guess.
Oh yeah. Well, there's
like a virtual.
Yeah. So 90.io and Traction Tools are two software platforms that were created strictly for running on EOS. So please look into those. Just go to. I believe you'll find them. Just Google what I shared there. I think you can find them on the EOS Worldwide, EOSWorldwide.com website. But those would be two amazing platforms.
Well, I did want to ask you one somewhat related EOS question, but the question was, and we don't have to answer it if you don't feel comfortable, but if someone right now is kind of going through this coronavirus crisis and they don't have an operating system like EOS and their company isn't going super well right now, it's a bit chaotic, what would be your suggestions for, and let's say they have nothing, they haven't written out their vision. They haven't done quarterly rock planning. They don't have any framework they haven't written out their core values. They don't have a framework for meetings. They have nothing. What would be like right now, if you're in crisis mode, like what would be the first thing that you would implement in a company?
Well, so if you don't have an operating system, get one, and obviously I'm biased, but read Traction and self-implement it worst case or engage an implementer. So that is primary. So what's happening right now is EOS Worldwide is doing one hell of a job of helping the world with this right now. And as I mentioned earlier already, you got to get back to the basics right now. And that's what that does, is get you back to the basics. And so again, it all depends on level of crisis, because if you're in turnaround mode, it's a whole different answer than, go fully implement an operating system into your business. So right. That's a tough, I'd have to be sitting face to face with that entrepreneur and understand, are you bleeding $1 million a month right now? Are you making 10 grand a month? And that's a really, really challenging answer. But the first thing I would do is lock your team in a room, assess exactly where you are, and either decide everything you've got to do in the next 90 days to save the company, or in the next 30 days, depending on the level of crisis.
Is there anything that you would revise? I mean, I've read it and I feel like it's pretty evergreen content, whether you're in person or remote. But is there anything, if you were to rewrite Traction just for remote companies, is there anything that you would change?
Not a thing. So when I wrote it to be timeless. So this goes back 20 years. And as I created that, I looked out 100 years to make sure that it's still going to work 100 years from now. Whether it will or not, who knows? But EOS is a system for managing human energy. And by all measures, until the robots take over, it's all about human energy. And there's nothing that's going to orchestrate human energy better than EOS, because it is my obsession. I have ADD and OCD, and I obsessed for 5 years with 50 clients, 500 sessions, perfecting that system. Now, with that said, I hope it lasts 100 years. It could all get wiped out tomorrow. Who knows? But so far, it's standing the test of time.
Hey, look at that. We have another thing in common, OCD and ADD. So maybe the puzzle pieces are starting to fit together.
And a touch of dyslexia.
A touch of what?
And a touch of dyslexia.
Oh, well, my dad is super dyslexic. I don't think I'm dyslexic.
Well, if we can, this is your show, but I really want to shift us to Entrepreneurial Leap. And if your audience wants to go out, I beg you to.
No, let's do that. By the way, did I ever put you in touch with Steve Laughlin from National Honor Society or Linda Kreitzman from Berkeley?
I don't think so. Please do.
I will. So Steve, he's a personal friend. He runs the National Honor Society. So he has hundreds of thousands of college students in the Honor Society. And Linda is the assistant dean of Berkeley's business school, but she also has a consulting company helping high school kids get into colleges. Two great groups for you.
Yeah, and that's two great examples of collaborators. So those are the kind of people I'm joining forces with, and we're doing some great stuff. And again, I give all the content for free, no contracts, no money, none of that stuff. And then I would also say too, again, as we transition back, your audience, the EOS content and the rocket fuel content, I think is perfect for your audience. So please get Mike Payton on for EOS, get Mark Winters on for rocket fuel, because they'll do a better job for you than I will, even though I'm the guy that created the content.
We just had Mark on the show a couple of days ago, and he's just awesome. But you guys are both so different. And I have a call with Kelly Knight from EOS in a few weeks, not for podcast, just I'm trying. Thank you for putting me in touch with her. We're talking with her on how we could do a collaboration with EOS.
Yeah, and to prepare your audience, when you listen to Kelly Knight's interview, you are about to listen to a rock star integrator. And so for those of you looking for an integrator, that's what one looks like.
That's the model.
You can't have our Kelly, but go find a Kelly.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into Entrepreneurial E. Tell me about it.
I want to give context, okay? And then I love the way your brain works. And so let's go where you want to go. But the context is this, obviously, as I mentioned, the whole mission is to impact 1 million entrepreneurs in the making over the next 10 years. And the way I wrote this book and the way the content works is it takes the reader on an emotional, psychological, philosophical, soul-searching journey of self-discovery to decide if being an entrepreneur is right for them. And so it's written in 3 parts that I call confirm, glimpse, and path. And they're in a sequential order because first we have to confirm that entrepreneur, that person in your life, has the 6 essential traits. Very quickly: visionary, passionate, problem solver, driven, risk taker, and responsible. And there's an assessment to determine that. But I take them through this process of really determining, do they have those 6 essential traits? And I do everything in my power to talk them out of it because most people don't have those 6 essential traits. Then we take them to glimpse, where I'm then showing them a glimpse of what their life could look like, all of the options in terms of types of businesses, a day in the life, both heaven and hell, the 8 mistakes to avoid, and then real life stories. And then that takes us to path. And the path is designed to help greatly increase their odds of success, as well as help them eliminate half the mistakes they're about to make. They still need to make the other half. And so we can talk about any of that on that journey, wherever your cerebral mind takes us, we will go, my friend.
All right. Well, me being a math guy. So the first thing is, how do you actually quantify the million? How are you going to keep track of that? And then the second.
Yeah. Oh, please go ahead.
Well, I guess book sales you could do, but also, would you consider the impact? You say impacting 1 million entrepreneurs. If someone reads the book and then realizes that they're not an entrepreneur, that should be probably another data point of success. Letting someone know not to waste their time doing something is, to me, a successful data point. So when you say 1 million entrepreneurs, are you not counting in that calculation all the people that decide not to be entrepreneurs because of the book?
Yeah, that's a great Nick question. I love that. So the way I'm going to measure it, it really is book sales. If I look at 1 million copies sold in the next 10 years, indirectly with this content that's out there, this content is going to help a lot of people that will have never read the book. And so that is my measuring stick for what that's worth. And the truth of the matter is, how I'm going to measure it, I don't know. I don't even freaking care, to be honest with you. But that's kind of my number. Just like when I started EOS Worldwide, I said, we're going to take 10,000 companies through this process. And the first 10 implementers said, how in the hell are we going to do that? I said, I don't know. We're going to figure it out 1 quarter at a time. So all I can tell you is I'm going to figure it out 1 quarter at a time over the next 40 quarters. To go to your other point, which I'm very passionate about, is so the ones that bow out and realize I'm not an entrepreneur, no, that would not be one of the million. But you're right, because I single-handedly want to increase the success rate of startups. And the abysmal numbers. I mean, you can't get your hands on the exact numbers, but 50% of all businesses are out of business in the first 5 years, and that continues. Let's pretend that statistic is correct. By talking people out of doing it, that's going to greatly increase the odds. And I feel like I'm doing those people a service because I'm saving them 10 years of sheer hell of their life. And then on the other side, the ones that do take a leap, I'm going to greatly increase their odds. So it's a double-sided thing where I believe I can affect that. But you're exactly right. Talking someone out of it is going to be a success, but no, they don't count in the million.
Okay. So really you're going to be helping like tens of millions, because I'm guessing that most people aren't entrepreneurs. And I guess there's a bias that someone picks up the book probably has a higher chance of being an entrepreneur than just a random person on the street. But
yeah, I don't know about that. But remember, I'm saying somebody that says I'm not an entrepreneur and decides not to do it, they don't count in the million. So that number becomes hard. Yeah, so I get it.
I'm saying like you're impacting actually like tens of millions because most people aren't entrepreneurs.
A lot of them go away pissed off at me though. So I figure they're mad at me, so they don't want to be counted.
No, you're saving someone a ton of time. I mean, it's not for everyone. I mean, staying up late and stressed out and very, very long periods of time before you see any positive signals that make you think that you're on the right track. I mean,
being an entrepreneur is borderline crazy, and it's made for people with those 6 essential traits. It's a mental disorder, I'm convinced, but listen, that is what we are. And I would do nothing different. I can't imagine doing anything else.
Well, it was an interesting, I read the book on the plane to Genius Network on the way to meet with you because I wanted to know what you were thinking about more recently. And it was interesting to read from the perspective of someone that is an entrepreneur because it just kind of reaffirms, hey, I'm not crazy. This is actually who I am. And it was nice to read something and see, oh yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me. So I think that even if you know you're an entrepreneur, it's still a worthwhile book to read to just get reaffirmed like, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing this. And this is what it is about my character that reaffirms I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, and that's that ancillary benefit I was talking about that I never expected, because when a successful entrepreneur reads it, you're reading your life story and it literally reinvigorates you, lights you up, and you do kind of go through and check a lot of boxes. And I promise you, you will alter 3 things on your current path at a minimum after reading that. It's a really powerful read. I just never expected that benefit, and I'm loving that it's doing that for existing entrepreneurs as well.
So what would be if say you're a college student, I wish that I read the book when I was in college. I think it would have accelerated a lot of decisions in my life. I was lucky that I was a high frequency trader, which I was calling myself an intrapreneur when I was a high frequency trader, because I basically could do whatever I wanted to do as long as it was making money. So I was within a company, but I had kind of full access to do whatever I wanted.
Sure.
But I think that that's such a critical book that should be in business schools for undergraduate students.
The question I'm compelled to ask you, if you read it at 17, do you think you still would have went to college?
Well, I think it's also different times too, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure. Because I write an entire chapter in the book about college or not. And I'm not anti-college.
Well, but I'm not either. I think if I were to read it, if I were 17 now and read the book, I would strongly consider not going to college, because now you have all these tools like Zoom and you can work remotely and you could have a team remotely. When I was in high school, that wasn't a thing. And I think I think that the value of a college degree has gone down over, and it will continue to go down due to that.
Yeah.
So I would have, so back then I still would have gone to college. I think now, I don't know.
Yeah, and I give all the statistics in that chapter in the book, but a couple interesting things. I would ask all of my clients that had degrees, which is most of them, and MBAs, which is a lot of them, and I would say, are you using anything from that degree and that MBA as an entrepreneur? And they would all say no. And so I did have this anti-college bias for about 15 years, and then I started asking a new question, and I would say, based on everything you know now, would you go back to college? And almost every one of them said yes. And then I would ask why. And what they said they got out of college, the benefits were relationships and a testing ground for their ideas. And so the point in that is, again, I lay out all the statistics in that chapter, is you got to know why you're going to college. Because if you really think that MBA is going to help you become a great entrepreneur, you are wasting your time based on what they tell me, not what I'm telling you, but what they tell me.
Yeah, I think for the most part, people are wasting their time with that. I think a lot of people do it because they think they're good, the networking or the value of the alumni. But you could join a program like Strategic Coach or Genius Network and get a networking group way cheaper, way faster than spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on that piece of paper. Yeah, not that I think that there's some reasons to do it, but.
For sure. But then I say, when in doubt, go to college, because, there are many professions that you must have a degree. So please, we're just talking about entrepreneurship here. So this isn't an anti-college message. This is just, if you realize at 16, 17 years old that you're an entrepreneur in the making, give it some really good hard thought, because that $100,000 could be spent in other ways that will be much more beneficial for you as an entrepreneur. The other thing is, if you have those 6 essential traits, you have a very unique way of learning, and academia may not be the best way for you to learn. And so I have personally spent enough money on education to get a PhD 3 times over. So I was smart enough to learn how to educate myself my way. And so I'm a fanatic about education. It's just not academia that I want to go get it.
So how do you educate yourself? I'm guessing it's hands-on experience.
It's a few things. It's strategic coach. So I recommend to every entrepreneur, once you're making your first $100,000, go reach out to strategic coach. I'm not even sure what their minimum is now, but strategic coach.
10. I just signed up. I was overdue.
You're right. But so what's
it's 10,000.
What's the
it's 10,000.
I'm sorry.
Oh, minimum. I don't know what the minimum
income to get in.
I don't know.
Yeah. So highly recommend the strategic coach program.
They took me, so they'll probably take anyone.
and it has changed. It's altered my life. And so, and I'm in his highest level program. He keeps sucking me into everything he creates. So whatever, I'm going to pay him whatever. In addition to that, I go to Abundance 360. I belong to other organizations. I've been in EO. And so I go get educated. I read a ton of books in my 20s, back when it was cassette tapes, listening to audios, which all that audio and video is damn near free now. I mean, I've listened to and read more material. And so it's a bunch of different things for me, but that's why each person's got to figure out how to get educated their own way. And you can do it for free, or you can spend a lot of money like I do and others do. Que sera, you decide what works best for you.
What are some of the top books or educate? So coach, and you've mentioned that a few times. What are some of the top books or things that have shaped you or inspired you?
Yeah, great. And what I would urge, this is one of the free tools on the website. So when you go to e-leap.com, if you go to the resources page, it gives my recommended reading list, my recommended podcast list. It gives, so it's all there, and it's always being updated. But first and foremost, if you think you're an entrepreneur in the making, you've got to read Think and Grow Rich. That's like mandatory reading for any entrepreneur. That truly shapes your mind. And then we can get into all other kinds of different books, but that's at the top of the list. And then you'll see a whole reading list, and you're probably looking at it right now. So you can tell me what they are better than I could probably remember them all right now. Those are them.
And what's your plan? Are you going to be developing courses alongside Entrepreneurial Leap? Is it the book and the podcast that's the main focus with material for?
So I'll never say never. And so the answer is I don't know. It is not my intention, because that's what the collaborators are going to do. So right now, I think I have 20 committed collaborators, and I have a list of another 85 that we're talking to. And they're creating the courses because they get to have at this content. Again, all they have to do is give credit where credit is due. So I don't think I want to build another course, because if I build a course, then that means I've got to create the platform. I've got to have the people. And I don't want to go there. Again, this model is very unique. I don't need another empire. I don't need millions and millions and millions of dollars. So that is going to be on the collaborators to do with it what they will. And I will certainly brainstorm with them, advise them, give my 2 cents, but never say never, because at the same time, I feel really compelled to lock 20 entrepreneurs in the making in a room with me, but there's a time commitment to that. And so, my biggest challenge is capacity. I'm a very busy, booked dude. Half my life is still EOS stuff. Half my life is this Entrepreneurial Leap stuff. So I remain pretty booked. And so I don't have a lot of time to allocate to a bunch of stuff.
So no more book ideas in the making as a follow-up right now?
I always say no. So this book came out months ago, and I need a 2-year break from every book. I mean, I put my heart and soul. It took me about 2 years to write this one, and 10 years of saving up content before that. So I put my heart and soul into it, and then I just burn out once it comes out, and I need a breather. So on the good side, I'm a 1.5 years away from the next book. But at the same time, then all of a sudden the idea comes to me, and I can't not write the damn book. So we'll see what happens in the next 2 years.
Are there any entrepreneurs right now that you're coaching, or younger people that are entrepreneurs in the making that are really impressing you right now?
Short answer is no, because I don't look at it that way. So one of the questions that drive me crazy is with EOS and my EOS clients, when somebody says, who are some of your really cool clients? You know what I mean? And they want me to talk about $1 billion tech unicorn or, these sexy companies. None of my clients are sexy. I am a real world everyday guy. My clients are real world everyday people, asphalt companies, insurance companies. I mean, every business you could ever imagine.
Same with my clients.
Yeah. So the people I'm talking to are just people that are going to build really cool, everyday, amazing businesses. I get as giddy about the person that builds a $5 million HVAC company that throws off a 20% profit and dominates their market than I do freaking Uber. You know what I mean? So it's right. Like, there's a podcast I did called like Blue Collar Entrepreneurs. I'm a Detroit boy, so I love everyday businesses that don't need to or want to be on the cover of every magazine.
Same. Most of the clients at Leverage, a majority of clients that I work with privately or through Leverage are in that same category. I just love to see people that take an idea. It doesn't matter what it is or what industry or the size, but make their company more efficient through an operating system or through using technology and taking something and just seeing how they can flip it on its head and make something much, much better out of it.
Here. You bet. I've taken 134 companies through the process, and like 6 of those are general contractors, and they're a couple of them are reinventing that business and that industry. What a boring business on the surface, but they're doing some really cool stuff. So for me, it's the everyday entrepreneur that I get excited about.
Well, I want to be respectful of your time. Where can people find out? So E-Leap is where people can find out about Leap. Are there any other places where people can, and then we talked about EOS. So people go to EOSworldwide.com. They could get the book Traction as a starting point. Are there some other starting places where you would suggest people to go to if they would like to learn more?
Well, so the epicenter website for anybody looking for me to understand all things that I do is GinoWickman.com. But and then you'll find all of the things that I've done there. For the sake of this conversation, it is e-leap.com for anyone interested in Entrepreneurial Leap. But what you'll find at GinoWickman.com is how to get to EOS Worldwide if you're interested in EOS content. If you're interested in this visionary integrator concept and rocket fuel, you go to rocketfuelnow.com and you'll see that on the website as well. Booking me for a speaking engagement, seeing all of my interviews, things like that. But again, from an Entrepreneurial Leap standpoint, e-leap.com is the place to go.
All right. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always awesome catching up with you. And we got to do this again sometime.
Had a blast, my friend.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Leverage Podcast from getleverage.com. Please let us know what you think. Rate and subscribe on iTunes. Leverage is an on-demand outsourcing platform that helps small business owners and entrepreneurs scale their business. We have experts that can help set up marketing and sales funnels, your email marketing, podcasts, social media creation, paid media, and much more. Grow your business overnight with a team of experts you can trust to deliver. Accomplish more. Visit getleverage.com.